Statewide, tourism generated a record $33.3 billion in visitor spending, which is an increase of 10% year over year. This marked an important milestone for the state of Virginia as it officially exceeded pre-pandemic visitation levels for the first time, marking a 14.7% increase in visitor spending over the 2019 reports. This is positive news for the state of Virginia, but local momentum is especially significant. By comparison, the city of Danville's economic impact increased 73.1% over local 2019 pre-pandemic numbers. In May of 2023, the Danville Office of Economic Development and Tourism officially launched the new regional tourism program and introduced a regional tourism brand, which you've heard of, is Visit Soci. That same month, Caesars Virginia opened their temporary gaming facility. 2023 also brought the introduction of the region's first ever tourism master plan and kicked off the new Danville Visitor Center reorganization. And it also saw the launch of a new regional tourism website. That's visitsoci.com. Detailed economic impact source data and research methodology statements are available. You can view them yourself at vatc.org/research.
Star News is on 15 different platforms: commercials, social media, billboards, advertising packages. Just give us a call. Call me direct, 276-358-1463.
News out of Franklin County.
All right, we're live. There we go. There we go. Aaron.
Victory.
They're not back there doing it. That's the more problem.
I know, man. We need to clone you.
That's right.
3 times.
That's right. Aaron Rawls joins us tonight. This is something you wanted to do.
It is.
Yeah. Now tell me why you wanted to do this.
Well, we'd want to do this even before kind of recent dramatics in the news, but we had kind of talked about there wasn't like this reversion issue going on, so there was like not so much paying attention, but I think it's probably the most important election. God, I know that everybody does say that in politics, but I mean, to my credit, even when I was running, I said that this upcoming one would be the most important one. It'd be the one where citizens get to determine, are we serious about moving forward? What kind of community do we want to build? Mm-hmm. But for my part in this, I really wanted to make sure that there's discussion on, well, knowledge on what the real issues are, discussion of the real issues, and if we're really lucky tonight, we can outline what some of the biggest issues are. And when I say biggest issues, things likely to cause us headaches, things costing us money, things we're already embroiled in, or things that we need to start solving for to make a nice community. And then if we're lucky, we can line up the candidates' platforms and their records and their preparation and see who we think is best at doing those things. Right. So that's the aim.
All right, now let me tell you where I am as I guess as a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
I know a reporter too, but I live here too.
Yeah.
Last time was the election when y'all were the resistance in a sense.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah, and we're talking about you, Tammy, and LC,
mm-hmm.
and you guys were so united.
Mm-hmm.
And it was powerful. It had a good feeling to it. Like we had 3 leaders with one thing. And racism was not, racial issues were not even a topic.
Yeah.
The topic was stop reversion.
Yeah. I thought we were unstoppable.
Yeah.
And we acted accordingly.
Right.
And we were.
Right.
I know a lot of it, some of it went in the news, but a lot of it went kind of under the radar or wasn't reported on at all. But I mean, we were going to Richmond and getting things that people thought we were out of our minds asking for. We went and presented ambitious bills that got tabled. We went to the Capitol and hustled and got them brought back up, mm-hmm. passed unanimously. We got serious state grants to get some real estate, or better said, some development projects underway. I mean, we were really operating like sky's the limit because, let's be real, it is here. I mean, there's no limitation on the city other than the one that we put on us. We can live up to our tagline, the city without limits. So I know where you're going with this, kind of. Let me not put words in your mouth. Right. What happened?
When did it start derailing?
The momentum and sense of positive energy, I would probably put a timeline on that of around this past April, and understand. I know it's stuff you want to get into. I'm not going to throw people under the bus here. I'm not going to speak on their behalf. I'm not going to disclose.
Was it the stoplight? issue?
I'll tell you what. Let me address this from things publicly that people can see and read.
Okay.
How about that? I'm comfortable doing that.
All right.
That wasn't the first issue, but it was among the first. And what I saw in that was, were there some mistakes made with it? Sure. But I was pretty happy with the guys taking a stab at dealing with some of these problems. Wasn't as comprehensive as it should have been. It didn't include all the different elements we discussed. But I mean, hey, it was some movement that we hadn't really seen in the city in a while.
Let me explain to my audience what I'm talking about. We're talking about one day we went uptown and all the stoplights were covered.
Yeah, and replaced with stop
Did
signs.
that shock y'all? Did us? I mean, because we hadn't heard that much about it.
I'm an adaptable guy. Maybe it's based on where all I've lived. I don't find a stop sign particularly challenging, and I found it easier to cruise through uptown personally.
Right.
But I went out there and I had actually 2 shakes from ground floor and just kind of watched people, and we did have issues. Yeah. And there were some lights that probably should not have been removed. But the issues we had were primarily people not even acknowledging the stop signs and just running right through them.
Are we talking about UNLC? I mean, it seems like, I think it seems like to me the separation is with UNLC.
I don't know. Let's work through one topic at a time.
It's complicated.
But with the stop signs thing, everyone who does that work is in our chain of command. Okay. Meaning, we can go knock on their office, call the city manager, and say, "Hey, citizens aren't thrilled with how this worked out. We weren't happy with it." However you want to say it, but it's all in our chain of command. There's no need to go to the media about that stuff. The only thing when you go to the media that happens as a consequence is you look incompetent, because it looks like you can't manage people in your own shop. It's extremely disrespectful to them. So here are these career employees reading about themselves in the news like they're pieces of crap who didn't do their jobs right. You know what I mean? It just creates this dissent, and then you know all the lawsuits that we're embroiled in. There is no better way to get yourself into a personnel-oriented lawsuit than to publicly talk about your employee's performance, especially in like a newspaper or media. So there were multiple issues that I had with that, but did that make me not respect the mayor or anything like that? No. Okay. We called, and I'll never say like anything that we talk about in a call, but I called and just expressed my thoughts on that, and it was fine. We ended it. Okay. The issue with that sort of media participation is that over the subsequent months, we stopped dealing with things as a council and just started calling you. And I don't like that. Right. I don't like dealing with city issues by calling you. That's not doing our job. That's something different. That's media stunts or trying to get some.
You told me this has gone on for a while. This just didn't happen.
4 months, 5 months? Yeah. Oh, and it's been
brewing
things. But if you're going to ask me like what's like the rift between this unstoppable force we used to have, what's the agenda, what's the policy, I don't have the slightest clue.
So you don't know?
No. I mean, I have speculative ideas, but I'm not going to gossip monger on live TV. But let me say this. All right. I had received, as you might imagine, calls from numerous journalists while some of the drama stuff was going on. And I'm sure, just like you, they're frustrated that I'm not getting into this sort of thing. I'm just not. But I'd said, if you really want to do something that I would find interesting to read, is why don't you explore the cause of it? What's the disagreement? What's the direction that we think is off that we're arguing over?
Bradley, right?
I don't think that's it.
You don't?
I don't. Okay. No.
What's the big issue?
That's what I want to read. That's what I want to know. I want someone to investigate and do the story so I can read and see.
But you and UNLC had a really big difference on Rayshawn. You don't?
No, not really big. The only thing you've read from me is in the Enterprise, and that's kind of some secondhand stuff there, without me casting any saying anything one way or another. What they quoted me as saying that said Vice Mayor Rawls said in my own words is how I feel, but it was never like a blow up thing. I mean, by no stretch of the imagination
I sense, and I don't want to speak for LC, but I sense that's what kind of blew him up.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Not even close. No.
All right. I mean, when he's talking to us, he says that he has these feelings about Rashawn.
I don't want to go too out of order because I'd like to do the issues, then the candidates, and I know probably a lot of people want to talk about him. But the thing with that guy is, a lot of people don't want to say it out loud, and I've got no like personal deal with him, and he and I share a lot of relationships, which probably surprises people. But there are people I care about a lot who care about him, and I don't want them thinking I'm going to beat this guy up.
Yeah.
It's not a personal thing with him, and I know no one wants to say it out loud. This guy is not ready for this job, and that is a
Rayshawn.
Rayshawn. Yeah. That is a feature.
How about LC?
The people supporting Rayshawn know he's not ready for this job, and that's why they want him.
Right. Do you think LC's ready for this job?
Yeah, I do. The person I worked with for that first year was unstoppable.
Right.
I swear to God, I'd have voted for him for president. I would have run his campaign. I'd have been in his administration, like no questions asked.
All right, but he's kind of like, he's destroyed y'all. You three.
He's chosen an unfortunate path that ultimately the city's going to have to pay for, but nothing's destroyed. We're all here, we're all living, we're all breathing.
Okay.
While we have breath, we can make choices and do something.
But it's hard for you, isn't it?
Not really, man, because I constantly have to examine, why am I here?
Okay.
Is it to win stupid, back and forth fights? Is it to get into petty stuff? Is it for prestige? Or is it to advance this community?
Right.
And so as long as we are advancing this community, I don't really care.
Okay.
If you're wondering if there are going to be trust issues and things like that, obviously, yes, that's going to be true.
Right.
But can we continue to work for the citizens? Absolutely.
Right.
And some of the issues we're going to talk about tonight are things we can solve. And I had about a 30-minute long conversation with an elder in my church this morning about this, about some concerns that she's seeing. And she sees it, I think, the way that I do, which is there's nothing impeding us from doing these things. Nothing.
Right.
There's no reason we can't get together and say, you know what, so-and-so or so-and-so, do you need an ordinance? Do you need a policy? Do you need money? Do you need vehicles? Do you just need us to say it's okay? What do you need from the city council? We're not doing any of that.
My tough question. He's pretty much said, LC said, you're racist.
I'm not getting into that stuff. Right. I know you want to.
Well, I just think to do my job, I have to ask that question.
Absolutely.
Is what he said true or false?
How about this? Did I ever engage in this sort of behavior when like a Chad Martin was doing it?
You said you didn't like it.
I never even acknowledged it. Never commented, never acknowledged it.
Right.
I'm not going to do this sort of thing no matter who says it. I'm just not. I'm not saying I'm like Warren Buffett or something, but I am trying to be a professional in the city. I do have a professional career. I'm not interested in like the nonsensical stuff. I'm just not.
Right. Before we get into the topics, all right. Obviously, what you're trying to do, because you got 2 more years to go, you want a council that can what?
Deal with the most boring city government issues on earth.
Okay.
Truly, and some not so boring ones.
Right.
But some of the things we're looking at is speeding. How many years has it been in this community that we've heard people complaining about? I don't mean like annoying speeding. I mean like dangerous speeding through our business district, through residential areas. What is it going to take?
But in politics, you got to have 3 votes.
That's yes.
To get things done.
Absolutely.
Right. So I mean, that's your agenda, right? To find a group of people that can get us in a direction.
Yeah.
And when your critic says, "What is the direction? What is the direction that you're trying to achieve?"
Yeah. How about we go to item 3? I think it was on my little campaign flyer of restoring like professionalism and competence to our government.
Right.
I really want to be able to solve very solvable problems. Okay. That's pretty much the agenda, and I want it to be in the local development realm. If you are asking like what my passion and direction is, it's largely making the city of Martinsville as respectable and prosperous as it should be. And that's not just a platitude. I actually have a plan to that.
Right.
We've got old textile facilities, industrial buildings, et cetera, that are vacant, undeveloped land, that sort of stuff. Why don't we just put some modest things there? I'm not trying to put like 5-star hotels or high-end condos or something in Martinsville. I just want enough citizens with places to live that are nice, that can go out to eat, to sustain restaurants, that can go shop at boutique shops, so that we can sustain our own nice little community.
And you're saying we need to clean up?
Yeah, it's really like the frustration of this is how much we are capable of and the potential we have, and how low the bar is, and why can't we close that distance? It's very closable.
Right. And you keep saying we keep doing these silly things.
Yeah. Well, it's like every single time, and this was a director at a state agency told me this, every time Martinsville seems to like get 2 feet and 2 hands up a step on the ladder, someone comes
That's what
and
it's
just
like covering it.
rips your leg out, and they're always self-inflicted.
Yeah.
It is always somebody in this government. Typically it's Kathy Lawson or someone like that, or people in that administration with her. But in this case, it's not her. It's like the first time in probably a decade it's not been her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last question on this stuff, and we're going to shift gears. I want to ask you, how do we get out of this mess?
Well, I am really hoping by me not talking about it and not giving it any oxygen, it will stop. You know
Bill
me.
Wyatt, he said the power of silence. He did an editorial. Yeah.
I have received what I think is sound advice from people who are my superior in almost every way imaginable, with more life experience, have existed in these realms for longer than I have, and every one of them has not just kind of guided me, but kind of warned me, don't get into this. Right. And I don't want to feel their disappointment, and I also don't want to disregard good advice.
Yeah.
So I hope by being quiet and not engaging in it, and it just dies out, and I'm hoping, I don't know, hoping a lot of people see this as childish and not fruitful, and it's boring anyway, and who cares about this drama? Can we talk about speeding? Can we talk about littering in my neighborhood? Can we talk about why are people who are repeatedly involved in shooting still walking around in the community? Like, that's stuff we need to be talking about and solving for.
Right. All right. Let's talk about infrastructure.
Let's do it.
And the city manager had a meeting with her, which was a very good meeting, and she said that Martinsville is like a house that has had no repair in 20 years.
It's a perfect analogy.
Right.
Yep. And the bigger the house, the worse it is. Like, for whatever reason, it's like, I'm sure it's some kind of mathematical formula. The more square footage, the more pipes, the more hardwood flooring,
right,
the more roofing.
All right.
The bigger it is, the harder it falls, and the harder it is to get back into repair.
How bad is the water sewer system? How bad is it?
People, let me put it like this. No one needs to panic about safety of water or anything like that right now. But you saw we had a pretty big water main break recently. Yeah. Stopped water for a lot of folks. Had to do a boil water notice.
Closed restaurants.
Yep. We had to do a $24 million capital improvement project for the Smith River Interceptor, which treats most of the sewage from Henry County in the city of Martinsville, and also Jones Creek, which is a little bit smaller one. So clearly we need some upgrades, and there's no reason to believe that these things we're repairing right now and fixing, that the rest of the infrastructure isn't in similar condition.
All right.
Here's the problem.
Question.
All right.
How bad is it?
Well, let me answer by saying what I was about to tell you. Every city that is competently run has what's called a capital improvement plan, so that you're putting money in the bank to pay for these repairs over the lifespan of a system, right? Mm-hmm. So if your water sewer system costs $100 over 30 years, okay, then you know how to calculate how many dollars per year do you need to put in to maintain the system. Well, the city of Martinsville has not been doing that. And in fact, we have been taking out of water sewer to balance the general fund. That's something that the previous administration did for like a decade, is instead of funding improvements and capital upgrades, we just took all the extra money we could get out of there and used it to fund things like baseball fields or whatever. So it's daunting. It's a real bummer to be 20 years behind and to just now be starting this. But is it doable? Absolutely. Like, we can get it done. We're going to have to borrow money. We're going to have to get creative. We're going to have to do a lot of the work ourselves where we can. But basically, we're starting from scratch is where we're at.
Pipes
but it is
80
doable.
Years old?
I think I would say they're more in the 60 to 70 year range,
right,
based on the expert reports that I saw. Okay. Most of them were built in the 60s.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, they're going to need updating. That's for sure.
Right.
And this is every bit of infrastructure in the city. I've told you this story before on here. Electric. We're not even sworn in yet, meeting with the city manager saying, you guys might want to know that you're going to have to do back-to-back electric rate increases because the city council bankrupt the electric fund. And then that's just to get us from not being bankrupt. That doesn't account for old poles. The average age of transformers in the city is 50 years. We got to start replacing those.
So you're telling me no tax cuts?
Okay, tell me where you just came up with that.
I mean, I think you're just sounding the alarm.
Euro.
Yeah, right. But that's Yoel's big thing. He says you've been feeing us to death, taxing us and feeing us.
I've been in office for a year and a half, man. It's taken me every bit of that time to really get the full understanding of the state of some of these things. These are huge systems. Electric and water sewer, I knew about.
And this is your argument with the past city councils, right?
Yeah.
Is that they didn't get on top of it.
It's just neglect or mismanagement.
And you think they were just waiting for reversion?
No, because, well, reversion has no impact on your electric or your water sewer. I just don't think you have people who
But
care.
this whole idea, and what the reason the county is so worried about reversion, is it's like, we're just going to let the county pay for it.
I don't think so. First of all, to be clear, I don't think anybody understood what reversion was, and we've talked that to death on your show.
I get it.
I think somebody needed to spend 5 minutes pulling up the Virginia law on reversion and been like, oh, well, that doesn't do what we've been telling people it's going to do, because it doesn't. Reversion has nothing to do with enterprises like refuse, water, sewer, electric. You still got to pay for all those things. There's no proposal from AEP, who services Henry County, to come into Martinsville. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's still Martinsville Electric. We still have to pay for all these things.
Yeah.
So I don't think people
I'm a
care.
resident with an electric bill at $750 a month, going from $400 to $750, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and you're telling me it ain't gonna get no better.
I don't see how it is.
Right.
There's also, to be fair, let me finish my comment about previous council. It's a bit of bad form to do what like federal people do and blame the guy behind you. But I mean, in this case, when you inherit a system that's been neglected for 20 years, and then they instead chose to spend money on silly things. And I'm not saying that silly things can't be fun or enjoyable or bring value to a community. I'm just saying, if you got to pick between, building some kind of luxury deal and making sure that citizens can afford electric, maybe start with this thing over here. It's a question of prioritization. You know what I mean? But so you've got the national market forces of electric, where they're going up everywhere in the country. And the real cause of that is basically you're shutting down natural gas and coal, which are the only reliable sources of energy.
Yeah.
Nuclear is reliable, but it's very, very difficult to bring one of those on. Natural gas and coal, whether you're a green energy person, I'm a huge tech person, I got nothing wrong with green energy, but I mean, those are the only two reliable producers of energy. So we're kind of ramping those things down, and then we're having to upgrade infrastructure and grids and stuff to be compatible with wind and solar, and they don't produce as much energy. So you've got falling supply, increasing demand, because we're moving all these like data centers and stuff to Virginia. What's going to happen to prices when you have falling supply and increasing demand? They skyrocket.
Right.
Did you watch the video?
Are we close to bankruptcy?
No, because the rate increases we did, we're back on the right track. Mm-hmm. This doesn't really do a whole lot for our future repairs. We have not discussed this. I don't know if it will require separate rate adjustments. I truly do not know. What we need, we're just now in the process of doing these long-term capital improvement plans like now. Like we have just authorized these things in the last 2 or 3 months with our public works director. So like we are literally starting the city from scratch. When the water main broke, one of the reasons it took us longer to fix it than it should have, there's no map of like where the shutoff valves are and stuff. So people have to go out there and find it all. I mean, we are really starting this stuff over from scratch. So I know people are frustrated. I wish I had great solutions to it. What I see, I'll give you a little bit of inside baseball. Maybe people will find this interesting. I went and pitched some ideas to various state agencies, including the governor's team, and kind of told them what I thought a viable solution was for real energy affordability in Virginia. And I had presented this through all these different pathways. One, cheap energy makes it appealing for economic development, so you can attract more companies, which has been a really big thing that Governor Youngkin wants. It's more carbon, friendly. You reduce carbon by using less energy. Long story short, I went and kind of pitched this stuff to various state agencies. And as is common in government, the farther you are away from the ground, the less up to speed people are. So they're not understanding the urgency of this thing. All right. And so we've got problems at the state and federal levels really accepting the problems that are here in the energy world.
Talk about optics.
Okay.
County government versus city government.
Right.
County government looks like they do it so much better. You don't think so?
I do not think so, and I'm not going to hate on our friends in the county, but no.
But their reserve fund, 37. What's yours?
As of like 2 weeks ago, 9.1, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, remember they're triple our size.
And we know that they're looking at a tax increase next year up to 45%. We've heard that.
Yeah. I went through and read their budget and some of their narrative. they've got some things coming due in the next few years, and they've got, you probably know this, they've got serious issues with their property valuations that's managed by their commissioner of revenue, who's since a new one's been reelected or elected. It's going to be a rough time for citizens in Henry County with some of this stuff.
Yeah, but
and some of it too.
I do think a reserve fund is a good indicator. 37 versus 9.
Yeah,
I know they might be a little bigger.
Multiply ours by 3 to at least make it somewhat fair. They're 45,000 people. We're 14,000.
Okay.
Okay, so call it 35 to 27.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's focus on the election now.
Okay, let's keep talking some issues for a second.
All right.
You want to talk about the City Hall building? Talking about.
All right, that's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think people have digested this yet.
Yeah. So
the judges can pretty much make y'all build a new building.
Yeah, this has happened in the state of Virginia, so to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about.
How long have you known about this? The building.
8 months to a year.
You didn't know it when you were running last time, did you? The building project.
The first person who brought it up to us was either Andy Hall or Andy Hall through Glenn, who then told us.
Yeah.
And Andy Hall is a very respectful professional. And Andy Hall probably knew better than to run up to us right when we got elected and start talking about it. He waited for us to get settled, and I think he waited for there to be an actual issue that we could come look at.
Yeah.
But Andy Hall's team, a lot of the prosecutors, attorneys, judges, courts, the courtrooms, they're supporting employees. They're in the basement, which was never meant to be habited by human beings. There's no windows. It smells bad. They got some respiratory stuff going on down there. So it's a miserable environment to begin with. But about 8 months ago, a year ago, something like that, Andy Hall made us aware that there's some issues down there. Mm-hmm. So Glenn knew that. Glenn was a very prudent man. He undertook some kind of emergency stuff and basically said, I'm not getting you all into anything that I can't be here to see through, because he was an interim.
Yeah.
So Aretha came in, and we put it on Aretha's radar very quick. And I'd let Aretha know, maybe 6 months before you get a writ from a judge. And I don't know how many months it's been since then, but it's probably really close, because those folks have been very patient in the basement. They have asked and presented and gone through some not fun ordeals with related issues down there.
All right.
So getting to the situation here, we knew within our first year of being in office that this needed to be done. What we were looking at doing is probably doing some sort of move in the interim, and there's a lot of antics that go with that I don't want to get into.
I watched that meeting. I thought you were mad that they didn't let you know about things.
I was mad before that. The city manager said she didn't mean for that to happen like that. It was scheduled for a work session. We ran out of time. And then when you're sitting up at that dais, it becomes like a very one-sided deal.
Right.
It's hard to do a discussion. I think there is a discussion intended there, but I do want to see more options. And we own other buildings in Uptown Martinsville.
Right.
And my big thing is I don't want to move City Hall out of our commercial business district. It's an anchor. A lot of people, first of all, there's a lot of employees there that go buy coffees and go to Walsh's and stuff.
Do you think we need a new building?
I do. I really do. Let me explain why first. That building has been neglected for 20 years. And like we were talking about, when you neglect something that big for that long, you start getting into problems that become almost not worth fixing.
But it's like we've got so many problems.
We do.
But I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean,
this is the job, man. That's why it requires serious people.
I get you there, but it's like, we saw them renovate the loft the other day.
Yeah.
And they look pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that to City Hall?
You probably could do some of it. The question is, at what point is the cost make sense versus building a new thing? I can tell you from being a dude who's redone a lot of old properties, it never ends. And in this building, we're talking about more than I think people realize.
But a lot of people, I mean, I've heard citizens tell me, it's like, well, they're going to get it because they're pushing it, and the judge is going to work in their favor, and it's all going to cost.
Judges and sheriffs are the most powerful people in Virginia. You're going to do what they say.
Okay, I get that, but it's like, we can't afford it.
I don't think that's a choice. I know that sounds insane, but I don't think it's a choice.
And that's what makes Yule Harris so mad with you guys. It's like there's no stopping this. Okay.
You would have to change like hundreds of years of Virginia tradition and law to make us be able to rebuke a judge. But let's be fair to the judges for a second. They've been making do with not optimal situations. Let me give you just one example.
Yep.
In the basement is where they do a lot of juvenile and domestic stuff.
Right.
So if let's say you've got a domestic situation where a husband who battered a wife, they're going to court. They're in the same area. It's in a basement. There's no separation. What do you do if they get into an argument and come to blows, or, you know what I mean? And this is real world stuff. And then let me just give you like one other thought on why I think a structure, it does not have to be building a new building, but I think occupying a second structure. And we already own another one in Uptown. And I think this is possible. Courts in City Hall, I really think should be different deals, and they are different deals in a lot of places, including Henry County. Judges put in all the rules for a court. So have you ever been to Henry County? You can't take a cell phone in there or anything. Mm-hmm. Would you want to go work in that building where you can't take your electronics and stuff? They take them from you at the door.
Right.
Okay. So you might want a place that's a little bit more public friendly, that doesn't have, all the armed people there and inmates coming in and out and stuff. Maybe you want that to be a separate building with city business functions, and then let courts and law enforcement and all that have the current thing. Does that make sense?
You're going to get crazy on me on this one.
Okay.
But Yale Harris came up with this idea, and it's a little wacky, but why can't we pretty much dissolve Martinsville? Okay, as a city, and we've already got a courthouse in the county that seems very functional. Just some shifting of the times, but I know this, but it's like if we have to pay this, what's coming at us, it just looks like it's out of control.
Nothing's forever, Charles.
All right.
So look, when you're talking about a building or any facility reaches end of life, you got to eventually pay for these things. Dissolving a city is just
all right. But look what we're looking at.
Idea.
We're looking at all this sewer stuff going on.
Okay, so you dissolve the city. Do the citizens go away? Do they still need water and sewer? Who's going to do it?
Well,
you think somebody's going to just swoop in and take care of it for us?
Brother,
I'm here to tell you there's no one that's going to pay for you this but you.
Right.
There's no city you're going to where you're not paying for your courthouse, your city hall, your water, sewer, your electric. I promise you are paying for them. There's no workaround. There's no scheme here. This isn't Ocean's 13 starring Rawls Harris. There's no game here. You're paying for the stuff you use.
Okay. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the election right now.
Okay.
Any other issue you want to hit on before we get into the election?
All right. That's really just infrastructure stuff. Do you want to talk about like any of the lawsuits, the crazy contracts that we're in?
Right. Do you see why people are just so disgruntled with the city?
Yeah.
And how many lawsuits we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well. Not all those are lawsuits.
4?
Some of those are just silly contract shenanigans that.
Yeah. Let me talk about the PSA one.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Right.
I'm the lead on that one for city council.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that county's going to get pissed off at you about all this?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't mean them to be. I'm an elected official for the city of Martinsville, and also I am a fair participant. And I can't get into some of the legal strategy, but there have been some things that I have.
Can we settle?
I don't think so.
What would be a good settlement?
What we're owed?
What's that?
$9 million.
$9 million.
I can't sell out the citizens. I can't do it.
And we know it's a weak contract.
No.
You don't think it's weak?
I have read this thing cover to cover probably 30 times.
We can all show on that contract. Go ahead.
I have had about 6 different attorneys look at this, including one from D.C. who I met recently, who's a phenomenal attorney. Everyone I have talked with thinks that the county is nuts for even taking this to court. This is a contract that cannot even be dissolved without a court or judge weighing in. Right. This is a regional joint use facility, and it does not mince words.
Right. What is the county not doing?
This is a regional joint use facility. They have to pay their portion of usage, all the way down from interceptor lines, sewer lines, buildings, all the way down to paper clips. They use 50%.
Does the contract say it?
Yes, it does.
Give me a line that says that.
Okay. They use 50% of this system, so they have to pay 50% of all the costs. All right, so they have to pay their proportional use of the total audited cost, which is actual cost of operation and maintenance of the city's sewage treatment and interceptor facilities, including, and listen to how specific this gets, personal services, stationery, office supplies, postage, telephone, telegraph, insurance, bond premiums, automotive, travel, supplies, fuel, electricity, water, repairs, that's the big one we're talking about here, workers' compensation. Dude, this is like many more sentences long. Mm-hmm. It is very thorough, and it goes on to say joint use facilities, and it describes that these are joint use facilities for the two localities. This has got like the State Water Control Board is involved in this. This is a very rigid, very well outlined deal that there's no exiting from without court action. And I don't see any ambiguity into any of this.
All right, I want to encourage people that we're on social media. If you want to comment, we'll also post some of these to the TV show.
Okay.
We're not going to take a commercial break right now. We're going to get into the election now. I mean, we've gone through a lot. There's so much that we could talk about. But,
Yeah.
But, you know, you said you're going to come on and tell us what we need to watch out for.
Well, let's keep talking through just some of these legal issues.
All
So
right.
the reason on your sheet I lump these together as lawsuits and contract shenanigans is a lot of them are kind of one and the same. They all come from some manner of mismanagement. So while I think that this contract for the PSA case is, I don't think it's ideal, but I don't think it's anywhere near as ambiguous as people are making it sound. The way that that was handled by folks in the past has really put us in a terrible spot. You know that this has been lingering for a decade. These $24 million repairs had to be made. They're now being paid 100% by the people of Martinsville.
How much of them have been paid, you know?
We got 30 or 40 year financing, so we've got the debt service, which I want to say is $400 grand a year. So the way that the contract's outlined and debt service is included in the total cost. County should
Are they
be
still
paying.
a customer?
They were never a customer. It's a regional joint use facility.
Are they still using it?
Yes.
Right.
Henry County doesn't have a sewer system. Did you know that?
Right.
They don't have a treatment facility.
All right. But
This is a good example of consolidated services, by the way.
when did they renew the contract?
There is no renewal. It stays in effect until a judge says otherwise. So what one group can do is give 90 days written notice, but a Virginia court has to review this and agree to do it. So there's no exit. But we can't just call them up and be like, you know what, we don't really like you guys as partners. See you later. Goodbye.
Okay.
But let's finish through this.
Okay.
So I think the contract should it have been updated, or do I think the way that we went about this was ideal in retrospect? Probably not, but for 1974, this wasn't that bad, I don't think. My deal is this has been lingering for a decade, and there are ways that this was handled that I can't get into because it's an active case that hurt the city's position.
Right.
And it was done under the auspices of people who are currently running for office. And that big old list that I've got there, that all applies to that statement I just made.
Right. The retiree lawsuit, how much could that end up costing?
I have no idea.
Millions?
Yeah. Over the long haul, absolutely. And
We said the PSA, I mean, we're talking about $9 million, right?
yeah,
Okay.
$9 million is what is owed.
Right. Okay.
So all in all, it's $24 million. We got some grants, which you take off the top.
Right.
But yeah,
How much are y'all suing them for?
$9 million.
I mean. Okay.
As far as I know, I got to say, I'm not the attorney. I don't know if there's
And you
other
also want to
fees.
rework the deal, right?
I don't want a new deal, personally.
Do you want to cut them off?
I'd probably rather not answer that on the air, but what I'll tell you is I would vote strongly against any future contract.
How would the county be without sewer?
They could be, if they want to be a customer, they can pay the customer rate. But there's no contract for a customer. Did you sign a water sewer contract?
Okay.
And their rate would be higher than what citizens pay, because we can't have our citizens paying more and subsidizing this for someone outside of Martinsville. This is a Martinsville system. So that's my stance. I don't know what other people are going to think about that, but I'm very firm about that. I'll argue that to
You
the
think
death.
you got 3 people on council that will agree with you?
I think I can make it painful if they don't want to, and I don't mean to be like that, but we can't sell out our citizens. And look, right now we're treating this stuff for the county at $1.50 per 1,000 gallons, and then they're selling it to their citizens for $7.50 or $7.50 for 1,000 gallons.
BB&T.
So we're not even passing the savings along to their citizens, and definitely not to ours.
The bank building, the BB&T building. What's
Yeah.
up with?
So do you mind if I just kind of run through those in order, because they all kind of culminate into a pattern here that people need to be aware
You
of.
can do it quickly.
Yeah, I can do it quickly.
All right.
So on there, you've got the PSA situation, which has got some serious mishandling, and the legal cost on that alone is topping $1 million. And then, even when we win, how much the attorneys take of what we're owed, which is going to be 30% or something like that. That's going to cost us millions of bucks. We've got the city attorney contract on there, which was big news a while ago. That was a thing that was in no way, shape, or form anything other than someone's attempt to take money out of the pockets of the citizens of Martinsville to give to someone who shouldn't have possessed it. And you know who signed.
Eric Mundy. Right.
Yep, and you know who signed that contract.
Why don't you say the name?
Kathy Lawson.
Right.
And she knew exactly what she was doing. I've talked to everyone involved in that thing.
Right.
I brought you copies of all these things. If you ever want a copy and give them out to people, that was no accident or oops. That was, yep, it's $1 million. We know the citizens pay for it. We know that it doesn't really fit. They knew so much that we had to put employment dates and other things in there that were not accurate.
Right.
So
Now, this is where your critics come after you. They say, he says he's a professional, but he's going after this woman.
I'm going after the record. I don't care the first thing about her. If she's got values, I don't know what they are. I've not seen them presented in 18 months. I don't know if she's got any positions. I'm going after people who tried to take money away from me and the citizens to pay other people.
All right.
If you think that's a personal thing, I don't know what to tell you. I'm looking at the record. I'm looking at things I can read with my eyeballs.
All right. So you're building your case against her.
Well, we can talk more about her as a candidate in a minute, but
Okay.
let's establish the pattern of these lawsuits.
Is Eric Mundy your biggest one?
Biggest lawsuit?
No, biggest complaint with her. That and the baseball team?
The brazenness of what they did to give someone a new contract, knowing they were going to terminate him, immediately terminating him, and then trying to transfer money like that.
Right.
Dude, that is next level brazen. That's an unbelievable thing to do. And then to try and tell people that you serve we the people, do not go there. Okay.
I do think Kathy will be reelected.
That'd be a shame for Martinsville because I will not be here for the latter 2 years of her term to keep an eye on this stuff.
Okay.
Be right back at it.
Right. But here's what I would say to you. It's almost like you're doing kind of what LC did to himself. You're kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
In what way? By talking about her record?
Talking about her record, but you might have to work with her.
Okay. Hey, as long as I can keep my eye on her and make sure that we're not getting into contracts like this, we're good. Okay. Her unsupervised in government is a bad move for the citizens of Martinsville. And if you can be skeptical if you want, but I will give you this vow.
Okay.
Ural always says I make promises, and I go through and have gone through and looked at some of my stuff and tried to see if I ever made any promise that he says. Here's one.
Okay.
You cannot trust me on this. You cannot be, maybe I'm not persuading you, but I'll make you this guarantee. You're going to pay for it. You will very literally pay for her shenanigans.
All right.
You already have. You paid for this, my friend. You paid $200,000 for that. That's real money.
That was the settlement, right?
That's the settlement.
Right.
$200,000.
You think that could have been avoided?
No. Yes.
You do?
With immense. Look, I fought to the. I'm figuratively speaking here. I fought to the death to get where we got, and I don't want to say who did what or what sides were, but to do more would have been extremely
because
disruptive.
your critics will say you voted for that too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Fair enough. The alternative starts going, you're prosecuting and suing your own government.
Yeah.
Which is where we were going next.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
In a vacuum, I think that's the thing that should have happened. Because, hey, now you got a person running for re-election who did something that was really bad.
All right. And you don't like her doing the Mustangs, right?
It's if I don't know if she talked to you about it, but I've noticed that that's a thing she's kind of spread through the community.
She's got a pretty positive commercial on. Have you seen it?
Yeah, let's come back to that. So
Okay.
I know it's an effective tactic to make it sound like I don't like the Mustangs or I don't like baseball in America or whatever.
Yeah.
This has nothing
Apple
to do with people who hold a bat or swing a ball. It has to do with the contract she gave the management company, which are associates of hers, we'll say.
All right.
So I had to highlight it a little bit here. I'll go through it very quickly. I'm not going to take up time with this. But tell me if you agree or not. This is a prudent thing to do in a contract. Provide an option to renew considered subject to mutual agreement by both parties, including any changes to the conditions of the contract based on changes in circumstances, and approval of continued funding by the city of Martinsville if desired. Isn't that a prudent thing to have in a contract that, hey, let's decide year to year if we have the money to fund you, what we agree to do, what we don't agree to do? What kind of person who claims to be serving the city and is not negligent takes all that out and says at the sole discretion of this management company, they get all this stuff. And we don't have a first word we can say about it. It says literally sole and exclusive discretion.
How many other people voted for that?
Danny Turner voted no. I think Tammy Pearson was absent. So Chad, Jennifer, Kathy. Let me just read you the things that the citizens of Martinsville have to provide. And before I do this, if y'all take nothing away from this, please hear this part. You guys are providing all of this stuff to a public field with public money and a private group is keeping all the profits. Okay? Does that make sense to you?
In other words, they leave town with all the profit.
I don't know about leaving town. I don't actually think this management company asked for this. I think that it's influence bartering or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I think it's maybe I get baseball seats or skybox privileges or something down the road for some of those council members. So let me just read the things.
Perks.
Let me read the things. Oh, you would not believe how cheaply people sell
Let me
themselves.
get my producers to answer line 1.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We'll read just some of the things citizens have to provide so that someone else can make money. Game day mowing, turf maintenance and care, preparation of the field for home games, maintenance of the sprinkler system, field lighting, scoreboard, public address system,
They're not taking
painting,
calls at the moment, but there is
maintenance,
gonna be
city's
maintenance.
responsible?
Oh, dude, I'm just starting.
If you just,
Maintenance of heating, cooling, plumbing, and
I'm not
electrical
sure how
systems
much
in the
longer.
clubhouse and restrooms. All other maintenance. Provide free of charge all supplies
I don't think he's
necessary
going
to
that
clean
long,
and
but,
maintain the
it's
restrooms,
gonna
the
be at
grandstands,
least
and the
probably an
concession
hour,
building.
sure.
Provide
more.
free of
I'd say
charge
hour and a half.
cities for the city
Just
utilities
kind
for the
of depends.
facility, water, sewer, electric,
does it
refuse, telephone, internet. Provide general liability
He
insurance on the
started at
facility.
6:40,
Provide an annual letter of
I think
credit.
6:48.
Provide use of parking facilities. Provide security for the Mustangs games.
Police?
Do you know what an OT deputy or police
maybe
officer
so.
costs?
It may-
Now,
it's
these are
hard
what
to
we're
say, though,
obligated
but
to
you can
provide. I
call
actually
back.
don't know
Per
They're
game?
gonna open up
every
phone
single
calls
game,
later.
every season.
Okay.
And we took out the ability to ever negotiate any of this. Who does that? If you are representing the interests of your citizens in your city, who takes away the ability to negotiate a contract ever?
Chad.
Well, when I say ever, it does have a
Martin.
term date, an end date of like 2029 or something.
All right, I'll let him know.
But seriously, would you do that? Would you sign into a contract like that if you were giving me all these things, say for Star News? I had rights to all these things you had to do with me and you don't have a say so? Would you do that?
Well, I'm doing the interview.
You're a citizen.
There you go. Well,
As a citizen, that doesn't bother you?
I'm trying to listen to all the points.
I'm going to put you on the spot. As a citizen, that doesn't bother you.
And you know where I am.
You know, I could keep pushing you. You would do the same to me.
All right.
Okay.
We are going to be taking some calls in a second.
Okay.
All right.
So anyway, let's wrap that up. It's got nothing to do with the baseball
Can you say
team.
something nice about Kathy?
I'm trying to think of something substantive and valuable she's brought to a meeting or a session.
He does love Martinsville, though. I do sense that. You don't think she loves Martinsville? You don't.
Yeah, people who sign away Martinsville's rights in a contract just love you. People who put their hands in your pocket to pay their friends.
Right.
They're here for you, Charles. They're all about you and the citizens.
All right. All right. So
I'm sure I could think of something. I don't look on a personal level. I don't care if she's not in government. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
But the record is too long of this stuff. We've only gone through 2 or 3 of these things, man. We're
all right,
just
give me 5 points on your case with Kathy. You got the Mustangs. You got Eric Mundy. What else?
I have an issue with the honesty.
Her commercial. You've seen the commercial with
You did a wonderful commercial, and I actually don't have any gripes about it. The wording of it, and people do deserve to get credit for the good things on
The
their
housing?
watch,
the housing.
but they also have to take credit for all the bad things too, and that is a very lopsided record with her. So be specific with the housing.
Well, she was with city councils that,
Well,
that kind of got that
let me
role.
tell you this. One of the things that helped me, not that I'm the arbiter, but helped me pass the test, say on her commercial, was she claimed to save the demolition of the BB&T building, which was a fair and clever way of wording that.
She's smacking you a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, and that's okay. That's totally fine. But putting housing in there, no, sir. That was a dead deal. We had to come in there, rewrite the entire contract. We discover that we've put the citizens on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars of expenses that were not documented. Plus, we'd already incentivized them with 10 years of tax incentives. And then we've got to go to the state to get millions of dollars to do the project. You would not believe the number of hours and the amount of effort I had to put in to keep that thing on track. And when I say me, specifically me, but other people in City Hall as well.
Right.
So just trying to lay claim to saying you brought that housing here. No, you can claim that you helped prevent the building from being demolished. That's fair. That's accurate. So with the commercial claims, I'm good. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me as Oh, that's not accurate. But now the interview that you did with her, you did one-on-ones, initial one-on-ones with all the candidates, and she'd made a remark that just like, it's stuff like this that I hear that you'll understand why I can't trust this person. She had made the remark that she wished that citizens got to vote before we stopped reversion. And you understand what my concern is with that. Did citizens get to vote before reversion was rammed down our throat?
Yeah.
Before you spent $2 million of our money? Where you talked about taking away our school system?
I did see a
and whoa. Forcing that down the throats of 60,000 people who did not want it and did not get a say?
I did take.
Don't tell me you want to vote.
Interesting that she said for the school board, she says it ought to be a referendum. So I thought that was a little bit of a contrast. But just listening.
She will say anything to anyone at any time. You don't have to believe me, but you will pay for it.
Okay.
Bet on it.
All right.
All right. So we can.
And that's one of the things I like you because you'll go on live TV and say that.
Look, you know, the first time I went and spoke to council about a serious business. Do you remember what it was? Giving $5 million to a nascent nonprofit that no one knew anything about, and that was a serious thing they were going to talk about.
Right.
I am a reasonable guy. I understand people make mistakes. I understand I will not agree with everything. There's some things where it crosses the line with me.
Right.
I work way too hard to have people do stuff like that, play those games with my money. I'm not going to do that. Also, if I'm being community centric, do you think other people don't notice these things? People notice these things. Mm-hmm. Do you think it makes them want to invest in the community if that's how they're going to be treated? That's how we value their money, is we're going to play games and pay people's friends?
Right.
It's not going to go over well. I will tell you the other thing. There were several other things. Like when I was, I took a humongous amount of notes during the Chamber of Commerce forum. I want to hear your thoughts on that too. But I really wanted to hear some sort of defense of, actually I do serve the people and I bring all these things to the community. I want to see some evidence of that, because it seems to me at every turn they went to great lengths to not involve citizens. Do you remember all the criticism about how citizens weren't getting a say in reversion? Yeah. And when citizens finally got a say at the state level, 36 people came and spoke. That's got to be a record turnout for a city of Martinsville civic issue. So I take huge issue with this framing it like other people, that she's this person and other people are doing these bad things. And we've heard that from her.
When you say she, who's that?
Kathy. And on every single issue that's unpopular, that was a bad move or she did for other than civic reasons. She's mayor during these years.
You don't like me calling her mama either. Bill Wyatt did that. Bill Wyatt.
Let me take a deep breath. Before I finish, let me just finish the point that I was making. Right. If I can get it to come back to me.
Okay. That one.
You deeply upset me.
You blame that one on Bill Wyatt.
Just now. Okay, so it's the school construction funding.
Yeah.
We're the only locality in Southern Virginia offered this thing that said no. And then she was mayor. She sets the agenda, all this stuff. In a public school board meeting and other public meetings, she tried to blame that on some other council member. You can't do that. You can't say that you're the mayor and that you're setting the agenda, and then you just claim the things you think are positive and say, oh my God, that never should have happened. Who on earth did that for the bad stuff while you were mayor? And I'm tired of that act. I'm tired of it.
Right.
The mama thing. Dude, she is not looking out she is not some sweet guiding force on city council. She is someone that we have spent 18 months picking up after. We have inherited nothing but headaches from her. How many children pick up after their parents whose parents aren't bedridden or 80 years old or have dementia or something? It's not what motherhood is about. I'm a young father, man. I'm picking up after the children. I am teaching my child life lessons, how to behave, how to make other people want to work with you. And she's only one. That's what parenting is. Please don't call her mama. There's no motherhood.
I got to have her come on a show for equal time.
Sure. Yeah. Do it.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, I am really trying to stay focused on things that we can pull up in the record.
We're going to open the phone lines up in a second. I want to talk about Rayshawn Gravely. We know that you don't think he's prepared either.
Not even remotely. Right. And I want to be fair to the young man. I know that all people know are the contents of one article, which captures a handful of sentences. Yeah. But on a personal level, I worry for the guy. This will be a thing that destroys him. He is not prepared. And what I mean by that is, I'm not just saying that he's not capable of managing an $82 million budget or all these lawsuits that we're in. I'm having to read this 1974 contract and make decisions. We had to make decisions on the Eric Monday thing. I do think all these points are valid and true, that he's just straight up not prepared. Then I have another concern, which is that I think him not having the background or experience to kind of stand on his own is a desirable feature for some people who are supporting him. Do you follow what I'm saying? Long has it been the case in Martinsville that people had minions that they could rely on for a vote, though. Yeah. I won't go into the names of what it was for, although it's very tempting. But I do think that we just talked about her a lot. We'll throw in one more. Won't be able to stand on his own yet. Remember, he's a 25-year-old young man. I'm not writing him off as a human. I'm writing him off at this moment in time for not having the background. But I think she'll see him as someone who is easy to manipulate, and she will do what she has done the whole time she's been up there. Get somebody else to say her words, get someone else to make the motions, and then when it all goes down, be like, well, I didn't know what was going on there. I don't know who would have done that. That's crazy. You know, I've seen the act for 18 months.
Right.
But then there's a third thing about him, and it's public now. It started private. Now that it's spilled into the public, I feel more comfortable talking about it. I've got concerns with the honesty now. So when I watched the forum and I read the paper article, I'm really getting over, and please take a note on this, I'm really getting tired of the lack of honesty about his legal background. He had said this to me, he said it at the forum and making it, or not at the forum, in the paper, and making it sound like he's had his day in court and it's all public and it's all out there for everyone to know. I'm exonerated, not guilty. Rayshawn Gravely has a jail sentence that stems from felony strangulation resulting in a wound or injury. And I'm tired of people lying about that. Okay? There's a sitting city council member who lied about that and knows that those charges have not been dropped. I assure you, and I will not say how, but I know firsthand that this person knows that that's the case. So when you don't own that to me, that's an honesty problem. I also didn't like at the forum that he said that he left the sheriff's department. He did not leave the sheriff's department. He was terminated. It's a big distinction. So here's my deal. I did give the young man a chance. I sat and met with him for an hour. I'm not disclosing any of that stuff. I heard him out. I really did. He doesn't have any of the professional background to really know where to even begin or even what direction to point in.
Let me ask you this question. What would he have to do?
This is a great question.
What would he have to do to change your mind?
Here's a wonderful thing about life. Life is not static. It's dynamic. Right now, these issues he's got, being arrested several times in multiple states for hurting women, they happened like yesterday, right? These are very recent things. Last couple years. Okay. So right now, all we really know of you is that you've kind of hopped around from job to job. You've got a pretty concerning legal background, legal troubles. All right. And they're very recent. And P.S. side tangent, I will not ever accept this argument that this stuff is off limits or shouldn't be relevant. It's incredibly relevant. This is a public election. All this stuff matters. Your work experience, your background, your legal history, it comes up in every election as it should. But getting back to the future, let's say Rayshawn gets 5 years behind him. No legal trouble. Steady job. Learn some skills. I'm just making up a number. Some distance on this to show the citizens he's got the maturity, the background, the experience. He can govern himself for a few years without getting into headlines. You know what I mean? Right now, I look at this, keep in mind all the way to build our reputation, our brand, restore relationships at the state. And let's say in a year, Rayshawn ends back up in headlines. What do you think that does for us? I don't really care if people agree with this or not. I will die on this hill. These are valid concerns. Owning these things. And let's keep in mind his platform, which, by the way, it's not even a platform, man. Be seen, be heard, get questioned. So own it. Don't dodge it. Don't cover it up. Don't obfuscate and say, well, I was guilty here, so we're going to say the whole thing was not guilty. Don't mince words and say, I left something when I was terminated. Own it. Let's challenge. How are you going to accept all these? How are you going to replace every bit of a water sewer system? How are you going to get us into honest, enforceable, good contracts that protect the citizens of Martinsville? How can I trust you not to do what previous members of council have done, which is intentionally get into contracts meant to benefit people that you are friendly with or associates with or want to get some perks from later. You know, these are very reasonable concerns.
Yeah.
But I do think Rayshawn, for all I know, he could be a wonderful young man who's had a tough go of things, but in 5 years or 10 years or however long it takes him, but when he has the maturity and experience, he could be a wonderful council member. But right now, it's not a good choice, and I'm not backing off at that point.
Okay. All right. Let's open the phones up a little bit here.
Okay.
We do need to. We're going to go 10 more minutes, and then I think we can go. We'll just keep alive here. Keep the Facebook alive too. All right. 656-2255 is the number. It's on the bottom of your screen. I want to get folks, and I'm going to try to limit folks to about 3 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to take notes.
Okay.
Sometimes I get like rapid fire questions.
Right. And I want y'all to answer the calls first as they come in.
We didn't talk about any of the other three candidates.
All right. Yeah. Lanita. Lanita.
I thought she was a surprise of the forum. What did you think?
Well, most people, yeah, and that's what people told me.
Yeah.
They said she kind of surprised them.
You know, I'm a researcher, and I love the research.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty impressed with the research that she did. I like the issues she's focused on. That boring government stuff, like, it just thrills me, man. Like,
Right.
In this time of like heightened energy and people being angry with each other, I really think we see people are going to focus on police, clean streets, communication with your government. That's a big part of her platform.
Is that an endorsement?
I think I'm going to stay out of it 'cause now that people have said I've got candidates,
Hold on. Okay.
I don't want to
Right.
play into that.
Hold on there. All right. Hello.
Yes, y'all.
All right. Yul Harris, go ahead.
Just like to ask Mr. all those broken promises he had. And one of the main things I've got an issue with when he's talking about we got to do all this, but it takes money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Commissioner Revenue said, and she brought me a paper showing how much stuff was going to go up if we voted for reversion, and we had plenty of money. Now, if she said that, if she said that, and you thought it was true, then there was no need to raise. And if you thought it was untrue, you was certainly disingenuous and was just. No, it's not true.
All right. Now, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put you on hold and let him answer.
Well,
Hold on.
Euro, can I ask you a follow-up first?
Okay.
All right, so did you say I made a promise based on what some other person said, and my not refuting her was the equivalent of a promise?
Get line one and put.
Logic here, because I feel like you're trying to tie me to what someone else said.
No. She said we had plenty of money.
Okay, I'm going to put you
Now,
on hold, and you can be the
If
next
you
caller.
believe that, then there's no reason to raise taxes.
That's something she said, not that I said. I'll do my best to answer what I think you're trying to ask.
Other people now, hey, when the Commissioner of Revenue says something, then that should be discussed. Then you should have refuted it if it wasn't true.
Why is he responsible for what she said?
She's an elected official.
Why would Aaron be responsible for what she said? Hello?
I'm going to give a ham sandwich about that, Charles. The thing of it is, was that a truth or was it a bald-faced lie? Now, he don't like untruths.
No, but
Don't
you,
like those people.
I know, but you're making him address something somebody else said.
And you're saying that it's a promise, but it's not even a statement connected to me. I'm happy to address what I think is the content of this.
Plenty of money.
All right, let him address it. I'm going to put you on hold.
Is that a fact or is
I'm a-
it not a fact?
All right, calm down. I'm going to put you on hold.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You got that guy amped up.
Yeah.
All right. I think I want to try and steel man his case, which means
Okay.
I don't want to. I think what he's trying to say is, God help me for putting this in reversion terms. If we reversion wouldn't have made it. I'm trying to get in Ural's head. Maybe it's a dangerous thing.
All right.
How about we say this? doing A-OK right now. How about we run with that premise?
All right.
Let's run with that. All right.
All right.
So
Go ahead.
inflation. I know everyone hates that word, but it's a real word where every single thing costs more. Plus the parallel like energy crisis where anything to do with energy costs more. But let's say this. We're trying to pick up 20 years of neglect in this city. So you probably saw in our most recent budget, for the first time I can see in city financial history, we have an excess of revenue over expenses in the general fund. We're not borrowing money from other places to balance the budget. And that's a big one. It's 2.8 million.
Right.
So you would think we want to cheer and be like, whoa, we did it. We are, not running a deficit every year. But here's the problem. You're starting 20 years behind. I got to build if I don't build some sort of new municipal building, I've got to spend millions of dollars upfitting one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And you have to extrapolate that across all the deficient systems, buildings, facilities, properties, et cetera, all through the city.
Right.
So are we